James Hirsen's back with us to talk about Hollywood. He's a pundit for Newsmax.com and author of the popular weekly column, The Left Coast Report. James wrote the New York Times bestseller, Tales from the Left Coast, True Stories of Hollywood Stars and Their Outrageous Politics. James, thanks for being with us again.
Good to be with you, Fred. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. How are things on the left coast?
Well, as usual, they're just, the weather's great, and when you escape out of the Los Angeles, we call it the orange curtain, when I go into Orange County and I get to breathe the rarefied air that at least has some common sense folks living in it. Well, it's wonderful.
Let me ask you this. You know, Obama is taking it on the chin for a lot of things like right now by a lot of people, and especially, and I think rightfully so, but especially among the independents. We were looking at some Gallup poll numbers and so forth, Democrats, Republicans, but independents are really switching, and part of it I think has to do with this health care debate. Part of it has to do with Afghanistan, lack of decision-making ability, and other things. Now we have this decision to try these 9/11 terrorists in courts instead of military tribunals. Do you detect out there any of the usual suspects kind of taking another look at where this country's going?
Well, obviously we have a group, a vociferous group like John Voight and others that make it real clear that I think the fact that they're so energized and they have the ability to speak out the way they have is one movement, but then not so much, the usual gang of the stars, the Barbara Streisands and Sean Penns, but when you talk behind the scenes to the executives, the lawyers, and the people that are working in Hollywood, most of whom are Democrats, but a little bit closer to the center, they're scratching their chin. They're getting some doubts about this guy who they thought was going to be sort of the second coming of Jack Kennedy, and he's turning out to be, the second coming of Vladimir Lenin instead. And so I think, and you point out the independents, and, one of the things in Hollywood is that the Reagan Democrats are working in Hollywood. They're the ones that are behind the cameras and moving the sets. They tend to be union people, but a lot of them are people that the Republican Party can reach out to. And as you know, because you've been in office, I mean, the way that the parties win and lose elections are the independents. They're kind of a litmus test, if you will.
That's exactly right.
It has, good things for those of us that care about what's coming up in 2010. And I suspect on the West Coast, here on the left coast, that could be a larger share, perhaps, of secret funneling of entertainment dollars that normally go 80% to the Democrat Party.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe a larger percentage will go to the opposition.
It's. I've had the same experience that you have in terms. It's kind of ironic that what I'd call the working people, are more open-minded about this and concerned about where their country is going than the people who are making the millions and millions of dollars, contrary to popular opinion in some circles. You recently wrote about an amazing thing happening with a new ABC TV show. What is that about?
Yeah, well, it's a remake, as is very popular in Hollywood these days, of a show that was on, a sci-fi show that was on in the 80s called V, the letter V, which stands for visitors, and of course visitors, extraterrestrial visitors from another planet. And the interesting thing, both in the 80s and this new version, the aliens are very attractive, very charismatic individuals who win the hearts of humanity, but really they have a kind of a phony exterior, and they're reptilian lizard-like creatures underneath that want to destroy everyone in the world. But the amazing thing is the main character is a female who has a sort of a frozen look with a kind of a frozen smile, and she could very well be, a distant cousin, younger, prettier version of Nancy Pelosi. And one of the first things that they did to win humanity's trust is offer universal health care. And so
How did that get on the air?
That's a good question. And, it's interesting when you ask that question. The original showrunner, that's the term that's used for the sort of writer, producer, director, character that works on these television shows, was actually let go. And now that was before the pilot had aired. His
now
name
it's a hit.
Scott Peters. And now it's a hit. I think he's the executive producer.
All right. You've sold me. I'm going home and watch V.
Yeah,
I want to see who those reptiles really are. I think I know. Thank you, James, for being with us again.